Everything Sacred, Nothing Serious, I want to begin our journey with 6 years ago, this pandemic was changing everything, especially for the world of musicians. I interviewed more musicians during that time period, and it was just so strange how
Mhm.
itineraries were melting away in days. Everything was happening. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you create and live today?
It really impacted me like a huge amount because I moved back to Seattle in 2017, finished my studies essentially, and then just started working and working, and just saying yes to everything, just like really filling my schedule. And I didn't even realize how I'd kind of like didn't even give myself room to really be that creative. And I mean, I was really lucky to be working, and I was learning a lot and playing with all kinds of people. So it was really great in a lot of ways. But as soon as the pandemic hit, I was like, oh my gosh, like, what do I want to do? What's my contribution compositionally, like my voice personally? So the pandemic gave me that space. It was tricky. I had to find ways to like feel like I could still perform. So I started doing like a lot of like solo improvisation and just doing like live Instagram videos, which I had never done before, and I haven't really done much since. But
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so like that really transformed. Like I started doing way more free improvisation that involved like playing voice and bass together, like kind of trying to accompany myself. So yeah, that was, and I started taking some lessons too over Zoom with people from different parts of the country, and that was really informative in terms of like my playing, and I took some voice lessons and stuff like that, and I tried playing different instruments. I really explored some different things.
So you also have collusion and collaboration with Vinny, and I want to get into that as well. But let's begin with Everything Sacred. Talk to me a little bit about what your vision was for this album. What were you going for? How does it feel on a visceral level to have this out?
Well, the original kind of ambition, even before I thought of recording, and I just wanted to write music that was a little bit more like prior to that, everything I'd been trying to do was much more experimental. Um, or I have a classical background, so it would kind of involve more chamber musicians, classically trained musicians, and it was all like pretty ambitious. And I wanted to try something that was like, here's a lead sheet, melody changes, like let's interpret this together in a more kind of traditional jazz sense. And then as soon as I started doing that, the ideas started to flow, and I just collected like a handful of tunes, and then I was like, okay, maybe I should record this and play it out. So that was the initial kind of like parameter for the compositions, I would say. And then a lot of the more like the messaging or kind of the ideas behind the music um, it varied, but I'm heavily influenced by like the books that I read when I'm trying to think about constructing some sort of narrative like through the music. I like to read about kind of like nonfiction environmental activism, and that inspires like one of the song titles is "Staying with the Trouble," which is actually the name of a book by Donna Haraway, who's a feminist theorist who writes about staying with the trouble, which basically means like letting ourselves grieve this era that we're in order to be able to be more active and present in it, um, and make change.
Yeah.
Something I really care a lot about. And then I also have a song called Self Alchemization. That's from like a term that was from a book, a design theory book, that talks about like how we can use design theory to change systems, essentially.
Speaking of this era that we're living in, there's such a level of toxicity and stress and things that are happening that are unprecedented.
Mm-hmm.
um, which the other half of us knew was going to happen, but I don't know that we knew that it was going to happen at this level. But being an artist and being able to create something that can take people away, how much of going into the recording studio and getting on stage are you thinking about giving not only the people that come to watch you play, but those on the bandstand a sort of respite away from the headlines and what's happening in this very strange era of America?
I would say that I don't know if my music is a respite. I mean, I hope that it's enjoyable
Yeah,
and relaxing, but I like to keep these things like in the foreground, even when I'm playing, making art, if that makes sense. I don't
yeah,
want to separate myself too much. But, um, I think one thing that feels really, really hard right now is like how powerless we all feel in the face of this administration and everything that's going on. And I do want people to know that they have power and that they have permission, whether that's like, you know, going out and voting or marching or like something that's like that, or if it's
yeah,
more like personal, like you have a voice, like you can go out and sing or make art or be creative. Like I think there's a, regardless of what's happening politically, there's in our society today, there's just such a strong messaging that's like you're not good enough. Like you need to go buy this face cream because you're ugly
yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever. Like, or but even just the subtext of like you're just not enough, and that is, I just want my music to make people feel like no, you can go do the thing that you want to do. Like don't like and the only way that I know how to do that is to go and try to do the thing that I want to do, even if doesn't check all these boxes or whatever. It's just like to feel like if I give myself permission, then I can kind of maybe hopefully be setting some sort of example of like other people doing the same thing.
yeah. I get a lot of albums in the mail as a jazz radio guy, and I listen to what's going on, and I'm always really cognizant of. There's some times where I just think about the evolution of the heyday from the 50s and 60s when there was just this brimming cauldron of iconic albums being made and iconic players that were out there. And sometimes I think if Miles Davis came back to Earth somehow and he sat in front of his fabled boombox he always listened to, and he popped in your album or he popped in anybody else out there on the modern jazz landscape, and I would wonder what he would think about the evolution of this art form, because that was the thing that was key about his lifetime. Was, yeah, he was iconic, but there was this absolute evolution. He wasn't wanting anything to be stagnant. He didn't want to go back to previous albums. He wanted that universe to just slowly expand.
Hmm.
So, what do you think Miles Davis would think right now if he popped in your album and other albums that are happening now? What do you think he would think about the evolution of this art form that he loves so much?
That's a really tough question. I have never thought of that. I mean, what I do know is that jazz music, Black American music, is about liberation, and that can, for Miles, it was exploration, experimentation, constantly evolving,
Hmm.
defying like whatever the record labels would want, the corporate overlords would want. So I hope that my music is in alignment with that. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I dig it. No, that's good. That's good. So let's go to your beginnings. Where were you born and raised?
I'm from Seattle,
Okay,
born
originally.
there,
Okay.
raised there.
So what got you into music? Was music always going to be woven into your map of stars? Was that always something that you wanted to do?
Well, yeah, kind of. I mean, my dad's a musician.
Yeah.
He's a jazz trumpeter, and so it was always part of our kind of our life. We just started taking. I have a twin sister and an older sister who's also very creative in visual arts, and so and my mom is also a visual artist and did a lot of dance, and so our household was very like yeah, creative, normalizing the idea that you could do art.
Yeah.
Um, but that being said, it was almost like the water that we drank, or like the water swam in, or whatever the analogy is. It's like it didn't necessarily occur to me that I had to do it professionally. It was just something that I did. But
Sure.
because it ended up being kind of a path of least resistance in a way. Like it was just there. I knew what was going on, to some extent. I mean, there was always obstacles, but
Yeah.
like I hadn't never really been like, oh, I want to be a professional bassist. Like that was never an aspiration necessarily. So I feel really lucky that I am one, because I am like, wow, this happened. I'm very fortunate. The bass, I think, is a particularly like good instrument for being like water, like because people are gonna always be like, I need a bass for this, I need this, and so I'm just like, okay, let me try that. I'm sure, let me help you out with that. Like I'm curious. I'll learn how to play son cubano. You need a bass player. Like teach me how. I'll do
Yep.
that. I'll learn how to play, you know, like classical music because that's also what was more like available to me early on. And
Yeah.
I'll go to study at a conservatory in the Netherlands. Like let's try it out. Let's see
Uh-huh.
what happens.
Yeah. So, do you listen to vinyl? Are you a vinyl fan?
I have a really small vinyl collection that I love, but I'm not like I wouldn't say I'm like a connoisseur necessarily.
So, what was the first vinyl jazz album that you got that you were giddy to go home and play?
I think maybe a better answer to this question would be like for me it was like CDs
Gotcha.
because
Okay. So, what was the first album? So, I'm just trying to get into that tangible realm because we're so
yeah
digital and not grabbing
yeah yeah
on to
yeah
physical.
no
Yeah.
but I had a CD like I picked up Herbie Hancock's Speak Like a Child
Yeah.
when I was in Arizona at a garage sale, and I just put that in my car and like looped it forever and ever and ever, and I just thought it was so beautiful. Um,
That's the one with
because
happy
it,
people on it, right?
yeah, and it has like an interesting um, like instrumental like lineup too. So the colors and the sounds, like because I was
Uh-huh.
studying classical bass when I was there, and like that
Yeah.
was kind of my world, and but to hear like these arrangements that were super warm and interesting, and like I was like, oh, this isn't what like you I typically would hear in a jazz ensemble. So that really sparked a lot of my curiosity. And then I also was just like, yeah, I'm just gonna like get CDs and listen
Yeah.
to them in my car and
Uh-huh.
listen to music that way. And it really like yeah, that's off a journey for me.
I came from the era as a Gen Xer of the get 8 CDs for a penny, and I got kind of blue. But I remember I could just ring up some jazz, Coltrane, Monk, all the cats. Like you could just go crazy,
Yeah,
you
another
know?
record like that for me was Tijuana Moods by
Yeah.
Mingus that I was
Uh-huh.
like, what is this?
Oh
Oh my
yeah.
gosh. And I
Uh-huh.
just played it on repeat.
Yeah. Yeah. So what was the first live show you saw? Other than, obviously that was a part of your water and DNA structure being in that music world. But like when you were like you went out and saw your own show, was there one that blew you away early on?
Oh my gosh. I cannot remember.
Or maybe one that
um,
had a profound impact that either consciously or subconsciously is a part of the way that you approach the stage?
well, I wish I had thought about this in advance because sometimes I just draw a blank. I mean I really am a huge fan of Linda O,
Yeah.
and I've seen her a handful of times in Seattle when she's come through and played in different settings. Um, like which she's played in like a trio with Fabian Amazon or Vijay Iyer. Um, like her presence, and I also, she plays electric and upright, and she'll sing and stuff. Just like her approach to the instrument and her compositions are super compelling to me. And then just her live performance and like presence and sound that she's producing, and like the way she engages with the bass is, yeah. That I mean that these are more recent experiences that I've gone out to see her in the past few years, but it sticks with me. That, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, I I think about VJ. VJ came to Kansas City, I believe it was in 18. It was before the pandemic. And seeing him live, because when you get kind of an eclectic musician like him that does things on the album that's just unexpected, that goes into these ways, it's totally different seeing it live. And I would imagine Linda would have the same kind of vibe. Like it's recording is one thing, but when you see them doing it, like Miguel Zenon, for instance, I saw him and he blew me away. He was with a band, a trio that he played with for years, and they just went in to like an almost out of body experience. Like they were all like literally moving so hard that you were
Mm-hmm.
just like, holy shit, what's going on right now? So I
Yeah.
would think that Linda would be that level too. And even with VJ, like you have to see, which is my push of saying people have to get out and see you all do this in the flesh. It's totally a different experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's the kind of show where you go home after and you want to play because you're
Yeah.
just like so invigorated.
And for me, from my perspective, I just want to see that person after the show and be like, wow, because I think sometimes you get so in the peanut butter jar, you don't see the label, you don't see anything else, that you need
Hmm.
someone to be like, what happened up there was spiritual. It was, in that Coltrane-esque kind of vibe. Um,
Yeah.
so when you decided that you were going to be a professional musician, what is the difference between the dream, the idea that I'm going to go after this life, and the fact that you're actually living it now? What's that gray area between the dream and the reality?
Mm. Well, like I said, I didn't know that this is what I was going to do.
Right.
And I think because I didn't really know, I wasn't super prepared for like exactly like designing my path. So my path has felt kind of like a little bit
Yeah.
like I did my undergrad in classical bass in Seattle, and then I went to a master's degree in classical bass. I got to study with amazing bass teachers there. I was like, okay, I'll move to Europe. I'll do that. And then I started being like, I mean, during that time, I've always been very interested in improvisation, improvised music, jazz, Black American music, and trying to stay connected to like learning that. But it was hard to do. It's like hard to kind of do both, I think, and especially in a lot of institutions where there's a kind of a binary
Yeah.
of like classical jazz, which is unfortunate. But um, as soon as I finished school and moved back to Seattle and committed to playing, I learned so much. I felt like a lot of learning happens when you're already working. And I went in. I mean, I barely like being able to play a solo,
Yeah.
and so a lot happens on the bandstand. You learn so much about listening, um, and yeah, and like letting go. There's a lot of letting go that happens in live performance. I mean, you have to because time marches forward. Music is temporal, It's a and then I think I was like I described this to you, like up until the pandemic, I was just doing that. I was like kind of not even really aware of what I was doing as I was doing it. But then in the pandemic, when I had some time to sit and reflect and write more, and then I like started playing shortly after that with Jovino Santos Neto, who's an amazing Brazilian jazz pianist who happens to live in Seattle. He was in Hermeto Pascoal's band, um, and he also like opened my eyes to Brazilian jazz, which is something that I feel really inspired by currently. You might hear notes of that on the record, Everything Sacred, because Daniel Silva is a Brazilian guitar player who's on that, and Jovino wrote the liner notes, for which I'm very grateful. And so there's that moment when I was like, okay, this is beautiful. Like this is, I want to be able to do this. I want to play like that person. Like I felt a renewed sense of inspiration, and only then, and this was like 3 or 4 years ago, like was I like, okay, now I kind of have an idea of what it actually looks like for me, like what I want to do, what I want to say, and thus this record and others, like the ones with Aaron Rodgers and Vinny Golia. But I guess the moral of the story is that like I feel like the gray area was still happening for
Yeah.
me long after I started playing professionally,
Sure.
and only now is there a little bit of clarity
Yeah.
as to what it could look like. I mean, I still have a lot of work to do, like so much shedding, so much learning, so much listening, going out to hear. I mean, that's the motivation for being here in New York. Is like there's just a lot of learning opportunities for me here. I already feel like I've learned so much just by being here and doing sessions and talking to people and going out and hearing music. Um, but yeah, I hope that answers the question.
It does. Speaking of learning so much, I remember interviewing Vinny Golia like early on when I started the show in 2011. I'm going on my 15th year. And it was probably about 5 or 6 years into it. And I remember getting off the phone with him and I was like, oh my God. Like that dude's got a steel trap of knowledge and history and
Yeah.
everything. I mean, his level of like depth is something that I don't think people really understand. Maybe people do, but creating with him had to have been just mind blowing.
I know. I was so grateful to even meet him. It all. kind of got happened when I started playing solo and improvising with my voice and like getting after that, like into that sort of thing. I got connected with some people through Relative Pitch Records here in New York, and Vinny is also released some stuff on Relative Pitch Records, and so we were able to get connected. And I went to California, and I was like, "Hey, can we just play, or can I like meet you?" And I just cold called him, and he said yeah, and so we like played together, and then he was like, let's do a record. And I was like,
Awesome.
that would be unbelievable. So I went back to California, and we played a show. We recorded a record. So it's some stuff like that. Just like that I felt really fortunate.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I don't know.
What about your dad? Is he excited? Is he ecstatic that you're a professional jazz musician?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he
Do you
totally
guys
is. And
play?
we've,
What is it like
yeah.
to play? Is it awesome?
Yeah, the gigs that we play together are usually salsa gigs. It's like our
Yeah.
where we overlap because he plays a lot of big band
Okay.
jazz, which I didn't do so much of in Seattle, but we both played with Tito Puente Jr. every time he'd come to town, so that was
Uh,
like really special, and some other local salsa bands. And it's really special. It's really fun. Or if I am putting together like a trio or quartet or something for a gig, I'll sometimes call him, which is he loves, and then we can practice together and uh,
cool.
like it's so nice to like play with people you're really really close to because then you don't have to rehearse. You
Yeah.
just play because you're hanging out anyway.
Uh-huh.
Um, yeah, it's really
No,
special.
yeah, no, yeah, you got the New York soundtrack back there, definitely.
I know. I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Yeah, I remember those. I've been out there a little bit, but I remember there were so many sirens. Um, so let me ask you this: what do you like the best about being a professional musician? What motivates you every day to love what you do and to evolve and to be in this world?
I if you hadn't been able to tell already, I like love to learn,
Yeah,
and I like love to feel like my brain is constantly being challenged with new things. And like one of my side projects, I guess, is learning languages. Like right now, I'm trying to learn Portuguese, and it's going slowly. But I love just constantly being like, oh shit, this is more language that I can learn, like literal language or musical language. Um, so being a professional musician is so special because I get to like learn on the job.
yeah.
I get to just do that. And I love teaching because when you teach, you learn so much too.
Hmm.
You learn how people's brains work. You learn whatever material that is they want to learn. You learn how to communicate concepts. So I also like feel like the teaching part of being a professional musician is really special. I had to leave, sadly. I had to decide to come to New York. I had to leave my job at Cornish College, which I loved so much because the students there were like just very much absorbent sponges at that level. But I had also a very robust teaching studio, and now I just have some online students every once in a while here, which is it's a transition. I'm sure I'll pick up more teaching as time goes on, but right now my schedule's a little more inconsistent. But I just love getting to travel. I love getting to learn. I love getting to teach. I love getting to learn languages for when I'm traveling to these places to learn these kinds of music.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
So let me ask you this: if you could get into a time machine and go back in time and see one jazz show, where are you going?
Um, Gosh, yeah,
A lot of
these
show, a lot of
questions I
shows.
really don't even think about. I have to think. Um, I mean, I would love a chance to see Ray Brown,
Yeah.
honestly. There's lots of amazing YouTube videos, so I'm really grateful. But to be in person at any of his shows,
Yeah.
that would be really special.
So at the end of the day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, fans, everyone on the bandstand, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think that I am pretty joyful and smiley, and I hope to emanate some of that joy. And yeah, it's a really interesting question. Nobody's actually like asked me that in this kind of
Yeah.
setting
The,
before, but I do think about it a lot and write about it. I have my journal here.
Yeah.
really into journaling. I highly recommend it.
Yeah.
And I even write like, you know, I feel like I'm unusual, but in a good way,
Yeah.
um, and creative. And I like to just shine that out to people and hope that they feel like they can also be unusual,
Yeah.
quirky,
Yeah.
creative.
I dig it. So you've had a busy 2025. Everything's sacred, nothing serious, and then collusion and collaborations. So if anyone wants to pick up copies other than streaming, catch you live, any of the good business, where do they go?
My website is kelseyminesbase.com. My Bandcamp is kelseymines.bandcamp.com.
Okay.
The Bandcamp's great.
Yeah.
So if you want to purchase, even to have just digitally, that's the best place to go. You can
Yeah.
get any of those records, any of those past records, also on Bandcamp. Um, I also did a record with Aaron Rodgers called "Scratching at the Surface."
Okay.
That's also on Bandcamp through Relative Pitch Records. That came out the month between those two.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
So it was like boom, boom, boom. We recorded it a long time ago. It just took some time to get it out. But so yeah, there's a lot out there in Bandcamp. I would recommend. And if you want to purchase a hard copy, Bandcamp also allows you to do that. Okay. You can do it through Origin Records as well.
Okay. I will put all these links in the show notes. Thank you so much, Kelsey. This has been great. I was actually thinking, because it came through as a cancellation, I was a little sad. I was like, I really wanted to interview, so I'm glad it happened. And best of luck with everything. I look forward to what comes out in the future.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you bet.
Neon Jazz.